This is a demonstration project to show how Excel files can be joined with shapefiles, geographic shapefiles, to illustrate how Excel data can be matched with shapes, how we can measure clustering, how we can export the data from GIS into Stata for regression analysis. All right, so let's begin by I have ArcMap open here. What we'll begin by doing is adding some shape files just for visual help as well as for analysis. So I'll add data here, and I'll add, ultimately we want all the counties in the US. We're going to select this one state from this, but for the moment we'll add all the counties in the country. This is from Tiger Line data on the shapes. So these are all of the counties in the US and its territories. We'll zoom in to see that a little bit better. We'll overlay this with the metropolitan areas. And the metro areas are here. And we can make it so we can see through those metro areas by selecting the symbolism, making it hollow, and creating dark outlines so we can see through it. So we're looking at all the counties in the US. The darker outlines indicate those that lie within the metro areas. The dark lines are metro areas. We could also, I'll turn the metros off for a moment. I'll also add the shapes of the states. This is in the Tiger Line data for states. I'll add that and make them hollow so we can see the states. I'll outline them. I'll pick a different color for it. Maybe blue, one of the blues here, for state outlines. So here we can see the counties within states. For the example, I'll focus on New York State, so I'll zoom in roughly on the New York State area. And what I'm interested in are just to see the metro areas within New York State. So we can turn this back on. And so what we have are the metropolitan areas that are at least partly in New York State. You can see the New York City metro area extends across several state boundaries. Actually, if I move this above, you can see that the New York metro area goes into New Jersey and into parts of Pennsylvania, actually. All right, and what we want, though, is just to look at New York State. What we also want to do is to look at information about population and population growth. To do that, we need to look into an Excel file. So these are the various layers that we can use in ArcMap. We'll go back to our folder and look at the population growth from 2010 to 2016. This is downloaded from Fact Finder at the Census Bureau and simplified down a little bit. The columns at the beginning are the fields we'll use for joining. These are the FIPS codes, Federal Information Processing Standard codes, that can be used for joining the Excel file to the shape files. The subscript T is where it's in text format, the subscript N where it's in numeric format, so that depending on the way the shapefile is set up, we can join either way. Let's make a computation here in Excel. We could do this in ArcMap, but for now I'll do it in Excel. We want to calculate the percent growth in each county in the country. So we'll tell it for the first county. We want to tell it, and I'll open parens here. We want to take the population in 2016, subtract the population in 2010. We'll divide that by the population in 2010. And we'll take that whole thing and multiply it by 100. And that will give us the percentage increase in population. So let's call this PCT-GR 0916 from 2010. to 2016. So that'll be our label there. That might be a little bit too long, huh? I'll just call it, that's 4, 7, 9. That just makes it. The maximum length for a variable name in ArcMap is 9, I believe 9 characters. And we'll copy this formula down for every single county in the country. So we'll just keep scrolling down here until I get all 3,000 plus counties in the, there we go, 3,143 counties. And we could make it look nicer if we really wanted to. What do I want to do? Oh, I want to leave it that way. But what we need to do to make it so there's no problem in moving the file, we should copy this information and paste it back into place, because there's a formula underlying these. So if we paste it back as values only, now there's no formula, it's just a number. It's better to have only numbers when we're joining with ArcMap, instead of making ArcMap do a calculation in addition to what it does. All right, so we'll save this for now. And what we can do with it, we have to close it. We cannot have a file open in both ArcMap and in Excel at the same time. All right, so let's add that file we just created. It is the Excel file population 10 to 2016. We'll add it in there is the Excel file I created. It's one of the sheets in the workbook. And we'll take a look at it, see how it came in, right click and open it. And what it contains is the original data that was downloaded from Census Bureau and the information that we calculated from it. We have the two columns which can be used for matching to join it to the county's shapefile. So let's do that. Let's go to the county's shapefile, and we'll go to join. We're going to join the POP16 Excel file. The field we're going to use is the geographic identifier, GEOID, which is a text file type, so we'll use the join T. Sometimes it's in numeric form. So we'll use the join T, the join text, and we'll say OK to that. And now if we look into, I can add, I can open that table as well now. So this is the county shapefile. So I'll open its attribute table. I'll set it so we can see both tables at the same time to show what's happened, arrange tables horizontally. So what's happened here, this is our shapefile, which now contains, this is our Excel file, and down here is our shapefile, which, since we joined it, now contains the information on the population and the population growth. They're in a different order, so that's why they're not identical. Maybe I can arrange this in ascending order of join T, see if that works. We get a bunch of nulls, but aside from that, these are areas where there's no calculation that was made. So here, for example, we have this county in Alabama, and so now we have the population information here as well as its shape information. Also, we could get population density because we have the land area, so we could compute population per square land mile and other information that's needed for the shapefile. So now all this information is in the shapefile, so we can close this whole thing. We also want to join the information on education in 2009. So I have a file here that has the education attainment for the year 2009. Let's take a look at that file before we join it. And what it contains is lots of information about the percent of the population that has, in each county, that has less than a 9th grade education, that has a 9 through 12 level education, that are high school, have high school diplomas, some college, no degree, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, graduate degree, and others that say percent high school plus and percent BA plus. And the earnings information. We won't use that here, but it has the earnings information for each of these groups for each county. We're going to be using the BA plus percent as our variable for human capital investments. But we're going to join this file in the same way that we just did. And so we'll go back into here, we'll add the data from the education file for 2009, and we will join that one to the counties. So we'll do the same process, joins and relates join. We'll tell it to join educational attainment using the geographic identifier, which is in text format, so it'll match up with the join text. Add that. And now what our county file looks like, it should have all of the tables from both files joined. There we have the population stuff, here we have the education stuff, and so we're good to go here. Now what I want to do is only select them for a single state. And let's take New York State as our example. So I'll do a selection, and I only want, let's open this table for a second. I need to show something. Open the attribute table. One of the pieces of information is the state FIPS code. And we can use that to select the state. The state FIPS code for New York is code 36. So we're going to select by attribute only those that are code 36. The other states have their own FIPS codes. The state name is not listed here, so I can't show those. Is it over here someplace? Well, it's connected with the county, but I don't have a separate file showing just the state name. But we'll let it select for us. So what we're going to do is to use the selection tool, and we'll select by attributes from the file that is the counties. And we'll use the state FP code, state FIPS code. Double click that, where that is equal to, and you can get all the values that, all the unique values that are in that by just looking here. They go from 1 to whatever. You have to put up a list of the FIPS codes. Code 36 is New York State. So I'll tell it OK. And now it has selected only the counties in New York State. Now remember, the shapefile contains the other, the information from the Excel files within it. So if we now export the selected counties, we will only have the counties in New York State. So we'll data export this, the selected features only, and we will export it into the folder we're using, which is, I believe it's in here, and it's counties 2. There we go. And it's a shapefile, so this will be NY counties. And which also contains the population and the education stuff. Tell it to save. That looks good. New York counties. I'll say OK. And we'll add it to the map as a layer. So now we have a single layer here, turning everything else off. That is New York counties. We'll open its table. And now what we've done here is we have the original shapefile, plus the population information, plus the education information from 09, and it's an all-in-one file, meaning that we don't need these files any longer. So I'll remove them. We don't need the whole US anymore, so I'll remove that. We don't need the state outline anymore, so I'll remove that. And I will keep the metro areas. Let me keep those for the moment. And let us save this as a project file. So File, Map Document Properties. We want to make sure we select store relative path names so that we can move to different folders if we want to, or use this in a different computer. And what else do we want to do? Oh, we want to save it as a project file. So File, Save As, and I'll make sure I put it in the Counties 2 folder. And this is, we'll call it NY Pop and Ed Education. I always begin these project files with an underscore. That way it appears at the top of the list in the folder. So I'll hit Save. Now what our folder looks like is we now have the that file at the top, the project file, which contains all the other information. I'll end this video here. This is part 1. There'll be a part 2 that will show what we can do with the file as we now have it. So this is what we've done here is that we've taken Excel files containing data. We've joined them to shapefiles for all the counties in the country. We've selected only those counties that meet a certain criteria, namely that they are in a particular state, like New York. And we've made that into its own shapefile with the included Excel information now part of the shapefile, and we will work only with it. I'll keep the metro areas for information later. So that ends this first stage in the process of looking at the hypothesis that those counties with high levels of human capital, that is educated, college-educated workers, have higher growth rates in the following period.